And we're live.
Again, today.
For the second time.
Today.
Need
to get that Empire Carpet guy on the show. We should get the Empire Carpet guy on the show.
Dude.
He's probably the little animated guy. Yeah, he's probably no longer with us.
Yeah.
I'm excited to get into the show. We've been doing one for a little bit already. I think our pre-show's got us nice and loose. We can get right into this.
That was a good pre-show, you guys.
That was
you
a fun
check
pre-show.
that out.
Yes. Yeah, $3 a month gets you all the pre-shows, and they're mostly evergreen because we hardly talk. I mean, if there's some current event topics, we're pretty funny about it, so it's kind of timeless, guys. But it's not as much current events, and we structure it that way so that you get a bonus, and if you join, you can always get like a backlog of that to enjoy. And shout out to the new Patreon listeners. We love you. Thank you. And the people that are engaging on the Patreon and the other ways that we chat. We love you, man. You're making this all so worthwhile to us.
Absolutely. You guys are awesome.
Dude, we got shout outs to the people that we shouted out on the last show, just, throughout the show. Like, they thanked us. I was like, get out of here. Like, nothing makes me happier than, like, we have a community of people that, like, we get along with. It's
absolutely.
So rewarding.
It's so good.
Anyway, I'm going to start crying. I get all...
Don't get all
too close to the wedding. I'm all fucking emotional.
Oh, yeah. Dude, we haven't really even talked about that.
I know. Yeah. Well, it's our last time to talk about it. I won't see you for like another week and a half.
I know.
Yeah. Do you know who, let's shift gears away from that though. Do you know who Donald Gorski is?
No, the name does not ring a bell.
Donald Gorski. He is the, if Morgan Wallen is the obverse to the Swiftie, more, what do you call that?
Wallen, I think.
No,
it's Waylon. Okay.
I don't care. How about that?
Okay.
I mean, I'm in Nashville. I should get it right, but I don't like his music. It's not music. Like, I don't like.
Great.
It's chicks music too. Like, which is weird because he does all these like rowdy things. It's like, well, I feel like you should be like an outlaw country singer, but I don't like.
He likes throwing chairs, apparently.
And then people are mad that they didn't let him put his Broadway sign up on his bar. Well, it's not on Broadway, it's upper. Anyways, he already has a bar. He wanted to have a certain sign. They wouldn't approve his signage. And the reason was because we don't want to say yes to a guy that's getting, kicked out of Eric Church's bar for throwing a bar stool off the third story. Like, sorry, if you didn't do that, all your previous transgressions would have been ignored and you would have gotten it. Sorry, you're causing a ruckus in the same area that you have a bar.
This seems reasonable.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Yes. Anyways, I don't want to talk about Morgan Wallen. If Morgan Wallen is
the opposite of anti-Swiftie,
the anti-Swiftie,
right?
Donald Gorski is the opposite Morgan Spurlock.
Oh, okay.
Now, who's Morgan Spurlock?
He's a Super Size Me guy.
Morgan Spurlock. I don't think it's in our headlines. No. Rest in piss, bozo.
Yes.
Lifelong alcoholic, had a bunch of liver problems from being a lifelong alcoholic
and drug addict.
And drug addict and vegan who quit being vegan to eat McDonald's only for a month and then goes to the doctor and they're like, wow, your liver looks like shit. It's like, don't worry, there's nothing I haven't told you. Like, fucking scumbag. I'm not glad he's dead. That's too hateful. But it's
I'm not either. It is a weird sort of end to that story.
The only person that's worse than him in my book is there was some guy who found out that like animal fats were bad for you. What? Fat cooked in fat isn't good for you. This is weird to learn. In what the 80s, and forced McDonald's to stop cooking their fries in beef tallow. And that's why McDonald's fries do not taste the way they did when me and you were a kid.
Because they do it in vegetable oil?
Yeah, they do it in seed oil. I don't know.
Canola
or something. Yeah.
Yeah. That's
you
wild.
Say canola, I say rapeseed. It's tomato. It is the same thing, but rapeseed.
It's the same thing.
Funnier. That's right. Don't I have a guy that says it's not in here? Pad for me.
Yeah. I was trying to think of who's the documentarian who just recently came out against Trump. I was thinking of him.
Ken Burns.
Ken Burns. I think Ken Burns is like the opposite spectrum of
Morgan Spurlock. Yeah, definitely. No, you're right. I don't know where my here it is. I like rape. Sorry. Rapeseed. He's talking about rapeseed oil. That's all.
Yeah, he's talking about canola oil.
Fan of canola oil.
That's all this. Less trans fats,
It's Chris Hansen from Dateline.
It's the good oil.
Anyways, why'd I say all that? Donald Gorski. Yeah. Donald Gorski ate a Big Mac like every day for the past like 35 years. or maybe even longer. The man's like in his 70s and he's ate McDonald's every day. It's like, it's probably on the spectrum, right? Like we can smell it. Like he's like, I have to have McDonald's. I'm not going to be. I did that. I ate McDonald's I had a Big Mac every Sunday for like 10 years. Like,
yeah, I remember
went on a
that.
vacation and I didn't. I was like, no.
You and Trump have that, in common.
Shut up, Alan. We got a lot in common. That's right, Alan. That's right. If it can happen to him, that's why I worry,
Yeah.
So in that Super Size Me movie, Morgan Spurlock like motherfucked this Donald Gorski guy. But guess who's still alive?
Donald Gorski.
That guy needs more cred. I just wanted to platform him because he's a good man. He didn't want any trouble from anybody. He just had a weird thing,
I like it. I don't remember him being motherfucked in Super Size Me.
You know
who I thought it might have been? Because today, the Hunter Biden trial.
Oh yeah.
His sister went off on some dude who apparently.
Yeah, there was a former Trump official, right?
Yeah, she called him a Nazi piece of shit or something.
Yeah.
And I didn't recognize the guy's name at all. I had to Google it. Oh, his last name is Ziegler because I was like,
oh, that's right. I had the same thought. I
was like, is he related to John? Like, what?
Yeah.
And by Googling, I couldn't determine, but I don't think so.
Probably not.
Probably not. Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to give you a choice on our opening sound, and then
Okay.
I'm going to get the fucking board back to the right page. Okay. Do you want something Ben sent in about stain removers, or do you want something Greg sent in about duck calls? Whichever one we don't play, it'll go in next week's secret track.
Okay. Let's do the duck call then.
Oh, I like the duck call.
We've had enough carpet content on this.
Oh, you know what? I thought it might fit with the carpet content, but I agree with your judgment there. Okay. We'll do this. And then give me a little signal to remind me to close this if I don't close this.
Okay.
I always leave it open during the intro. And then
right.
We're just staring at this redhead's beard. Okay, so you don't have to be into hunting to find little hobbies cool and things that you can do at home. They're kind of neat, right?
Yeah.
So this guy's going to show you how to make a homemade duck call.
All right, so check it out. I just made my own homemade duck call. Plastic straw, literally all you need. All you're going to do, wrap it around your right finger, wrap it around your left, okay? You're going to make a V with it. Hold on. Like that, okay? All you're going to do is you're going to blow through it, the very top of it. Really hard. Take a deep breath and you're going to blow through it. Oh, little ducky, come here, little fucking duck. Daddy wants a fucking duck for dinner. Oh, shit, Daddy.
Should we hit record?
Yeah, 1, 2, 3.
All right, you ready?
I am ready. Are you recording?
Yes. All right. Well, you want to start a show?
Let's start a show.
That podcast is filling your head with garbage.
No offense taken there.
Well, it sounds like none taken.
Asking mama, she'll say the same thing. I got all the ways, I just ain't got the means.
To the Friday Headlines Roundup edition of Nerd Taken, where every week my good friend Alan wrangles up the headlines from all over the internet and we talk them at you. Because I listen to 13 hours of podcasts a day and Alan watches 3 hours of cable news. So you don't have to. And now, get ready to take a sledgehammer to the culture war echo chambers.
So, another Friday is upon us. What'll you be doing, Smithers? Something gay, no doubt. What? You know, lighthearted, fancy-free. Mothers, lock up your daughters. Smithers is on the town.
Exactly, sir.
Weekend. Oh, I'm saying your line. Weekend is here. Grab a can of beer. It's none taken time, boys and girls, ladies and thems. Probably forgot some of y'all, but it's well intended. Head on over to nonetaken.com. It's got all the links for anything that you want there, but I'm going to talk about one thing in particular. For $3 a month, you can join the Patreon. If you want to splurge yourself a little bit, if you want to splurge a little bit
On
on
yourself.
if you want to splurge on me a little bit, $8 a month. And if you really want to let out the full load, $18 a month will get you. If you DM me, I'll send you a Culture War veteran T-shirt, and that's it. Oh, but you get things for that. You get all the old episodes. You get all the videos for everything. Some of these look a little bit better when you can see it. Make sense more when you see it, I should say. And a lot of our old bits and upcoming interviews that we will release at a later date live there on the Patreon first. And Alan, I'm going to pass it over to you.
Absolutely. Nonetakenpod.com. As you're saying, the Patreon, you get early access to interviews. We get a hidden track for every episode that we've done for probably, I don't know, 20, 30, 40 episodes at this point.
No more than that.
Maybe more than that. Yeah. So we talk for, a good 30 minutes to an hour before every show. You get access to that. Also, it just means you're a cool kid. That's what that means. Also, we have access to our merch store on untakenpod.com where you can get a cool t-shirt, Alan's edging service, or a cunt mug, or a
just for the record, it's a mug that says "We say cunt in this house."
Does it bother you when I say cunt?
Well, I just feel like nobody really knows what that means, but it's a nice mug to have.
It's a very nice mug.
Over,
and it's not visually offensive. There's no actual body parts.
It's a sight gag. You have it on the breakfast counter when your friends wake up and they come down to the living room and you're just drinking out of the mug. Think about that. You could do that gag anytime a friend's in town, but only if you go to nonetakenpod.com. Speaking of gags, you see that picture of Joe Biden where it looks like he had little strap marks on his cheeks?
I saw it. Hey, also, while you're there, don't forget, support the people that support us. SlicketsDigital.com for all your SEO and marketing needs. SlicketsDigital.com. What is up, everybody? Happy Friday.
It's okay.
Took my line about the beers.
All right, I won't do it again.
What are you drinking?
This is Southern Tier IPA, and for backup, I have Founders All Day IPA Session IPA.
Nice.
Yeah.
I just remembered I still have beers in my ice chest in my car from the lake. I should probably
smell like that's gonna smell like a Kansas City possum.
I should probably bring those in. I think it'll be fine.
Kyle Paris of beers.
But I'm not going to put the vacuum in it. Okay. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that. All right. If anybody gets those references, congratulations.
They listen to the show. They get it.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Shall we get into some headlines?
Yeah. What do you got? I have not looked.
All right. Starting out here, an appeals court temporarily halted former President Trump's election interference case in Georgia as an appeal seeking to disqualify DA Fani, not Fani, Willis.
Front butt
is considered.
Front butt Willis.
So this essentially halts this case until definitely post-election. And we've been following this. We kind of knew, I think, that this might happen.
Whatever. It's going to hurt real bad when he loses and then he still gets charged.
Yeah. Well, the really interesting thing is what if he wins and then...
Oh, I know that, but it's going to be hilarious when he loses and then it's like...
That will be hilarious.
All happening anyways.
Yeah. So, yeah, this case won't be...
I'd rather, we've already seen what happens when he's guilty and people are like, oh, whatever, he can still be president. It's like, okay, you know what? Good point. I guess I don't care anymore. If that's what matters, then they'll say he didn't lose. And it's like, okay, well, he's going to court anyways. Oh, I'm sorry. I have TDS. You know what? I felt like I understood what people meant when they were like, I love my haters and stuff like that. I thought it was sort of like, I thought it was something people say to make themselves feel better.
Sure.
And then, so I told you there was that one guy that I didn't mind interacting with, even though he was like a pretty MAGA dude. I was like, whatever, man. We talk about country music. It's fine. He'll laugh at anything I share that is negative about Trump. And I was like, I'll just kind of ignore the LOLs, but he couldn't take it when Trump lost his lawsuit. And I was like, look, man, I get your point. I was very civil with him. I was like, I totally understand your perspective. Here's my perspective. And he was like, you're a fascist and you're carrying water for fascists. I'm like, okay, I was like, hey, I have a line here. We respect each other. If you look, I'm being respectful to you. I don't agree with you. Mm-hmm. I have words like that I could give to you, but I'm not doing that because that's not how I this conversation will end if you want to talk like that. It doesn't hurt me.
Right. And then finding out that line was like a party line.
He was repeating things that came from a Trump press conference. Yeah. And then, so, I mean, I was like, I only have so much time in my days. I stopped looking at his DMs. I opened it up today, and everything that I've shared that has anything that's like Trump related, he's got a snarky comment on it, and it's like, dude, here, I'll show you. But I looked at it, and like just in a flash, like I just saw all of them, like the post dated things where he keeps checking on things that we've said, and I was just like, I get it now. Like it feels good to have people that are so like, I can't imagine being so committed to paying attention to someone that I hate. And that really feels like I'm doing something right if he's still paying attention and he hates us. Does that make sense?
It does. It is.
I
It is an unusual feeling. I think most people don't get to experience. So,
like there was
but,
something about Trump promised to
yeah.
release the Epstein and JFK stuff.
Mhm.
And I was like, well, he's a documented liar, so I don't really believe that. And he did the SpongeBob font with documented liar. And he says, just brings everything on himself, doesn't he? And I'm like, well,
Kinda, yeah.
yes, actually. I don't know why you're
Yeah.
saying it like that. And then like that one of the video reels we posted, I think it was the reel about Alex Jones. He said TDS episode 101. I'm like, okay. I mean, I found out about all of these today. Oh, and then he said it was a weak take. Government pulls shady ass shit every day. Alex Jones was wrong once. Hey, he was only wrong once, the time that he said that all those when he said
Atlanta didn't have a bomb.
Yeah.
it's been a long time. I want to play it.
And Abraham Lincoln was a crisis actor.
And he said it's hard to take the whole I'm not a fascist shtick when you essentially cheerlead fascism, because I like seeing Alex Jones lose his lawsuit about ruining people's lives whose kids were murdered. Like, I'm a fascist for that.
Yeah, that's pretty.
Yeah.
That's a pretty wild take.
I love it. Like, I love it. I totally get I love my haters. Like, I hope he never stops. It's inspiration. We're doing something
I
right.
can feel it. I can feel it. Actually, so you bring up Alex Jones. There was a lot of I wasn't aware. I listened to the most recent episode of Knowledge Fight, but there was apparently a lot of drama in Alex Jones world over the weekend. You
Oh, really?
captured some of it.
I really
But-
appreciate that you listened to that podcast. I was halfway through my rant on the Big Show when I was like,
Yeah.
oh shit, Alan actually knows a lot more about him than I actually do.
So he went on this whole tirade where he said that his CRO, his reconstruction officer, so essentially the guy who's supposed to like
Manage his bankruptcy so that he can
Yes.
get away with it.
right, so he got in a huge fight with him. And he claimed,
These people always they isolate their only supporters, right?
and he claimed on his show that the guy was planning to have security guards come into his office, his studio, and like padlock the doors and shut down his broadcast. And so he slept in the studio. And then he had all these people
Sounds a
on.
lot like a stunt.
It does. And then he had Flynn on, Michael Flynn. He had Roger Stone. He had all these like luminaries of the alt-right on his show, talking about how he was going to be shut down. And he broadcasted for like 6-7 hours straight, and he was clearly drunk.
It was like a church lock-in.
Yeah, it was.
Oh
at
man, I
one
wonder if
point,
there was over the pants handies. That was a big thing at the church lock-ins, Alan. It's not sinning.
It's not sinning.
It's also not sinning when you get head in the memorial garden.
Yeah, or if your buddy's just like pushing up on the bunk bed, it's fine. It's okay. But yeah, he broadcasted for like 6 or 7 hours, like apparently like wanting to have like these people bust.
Yeah,
in
like
and
the
shut
best
it
thing
down.
that could happen is if they actually
Right,
did it,
which
like,
didn't happen.
Of course, it never happens, but the reason it didn't happen is because he got out in front of it. Right? It's a
Right.
self-feeding ice cream
Yes,
cone.
yes.
Like,
And apparently on one version of the stream, he appears to throw up in his mouth. They pan away from it.
oh god,
It's a whole
Did you
thing,
see
dude.
Trump foaming at the mouth while he was talking the other day? He
No,
had
I
some
didn't see
like
that.
speech. He's like, "Ruff, ruff." It's like off in the corners. It's fine.
That's
Midas touch took it too far.
Oh, just real quick, back to the headline. Oral arguments are scheduled for October, and so that means for sure the case won't go forward until post-election.
Okay.
And this is another state case which cannot be overturned even if Trump is elected president.
So
that's
what's your feel on this appellate court? So this appeal panel is like all Republicans,
Mhm.
but they aren't necessarily like the most,
MAGA Republicans?
yeah. Because remember Raffensperger, who denied Trump's request, is a Republican.
Yeah, he said I wanted him to win, but I wasn't going to do what they asked me to do.
Right. If they're
So-
institutionalists, I feel like they'll look at it objectively.
I think so too, and my sense is that what Fannie Willis is being accused of, which I
It's not front
Fa-
butt
Fawny,
Willis.
I'm sorry.
Oh,
What
right.
Fawny Willis is being accused of, which I think she probably did, have an affair
yeah.
with this guy.
Yeah.
I think that's obvious at this point.
Yeah, this is the court with Boy Wonder, the judge, right?
McAfee, yes. So I think that the judge has been very fair in his rulings, and I think that even if you sort of stipulate whatever they're alleging she did with Nathan Wade, it doesn't rise to the level of her being removed from the case. There could be disciplinary actions at the state bar level, things like that. But as far as actually removing her from the case, there isn't any evidence in what they allege that would say that she had
That there was actually like professional impropriety or
yeah,
legal
or
impropriety.
I mean,
right?
they were on the same side, so it's
Mm.
not like she was sleeping with the fence
Right. It's like a
across-
technicality, like, hey, you're
Right.
not supposed to do this, you can get fired, but it's
Right.
not like you're doing your job illegally.
Right. So I tend to think that the case will go forward after it goes through appeals, but
Yeah.
that's just my thought.
Yeah, I feel like Lawfare said this better than I'll attempt to, but they often talk about how impressive this young judge is. I think it's a matter of time until this case goes forward, and when that does, of course, Trump's going to be motherfucking this judge, and he'll probably say he's young and inexperienced or whatever, and that's mostly true, and that makes it even more impressive that so far he has expertly navigated a RICO case with 19 defendants
Mhm.
and 2 prosecutors that are fucking each other and exchanging money.
I think if you compare his performance to Cannon's, it's just like
Oh yeah,
light years of difference.
yeah.
I think we had a really good judge in the New York case as well. But yeah, no, he's been phenomenal in my opinion, just legally.
Yep. Oh, can I do this one about Israel? I'm so excited to do it.
Yeah,
An Israeli airstrike hit a UN-run school in Gaza. I'm just joking about the enthusiasm. So an Israeli airstrike hit a UN-run school, unrun. That's how that's spelled. It hit a UN-run school in Gaza. Israel said it was a precise strike on a Hamas compound operating inside the school. Do you think they're still going to school in Gaza? I feel like school's probably been canceled for about 8 months, right?
That's an interesting point. No, actually, no, most of these schools are now just being used as shelters.
Yeah.
That's what this was being used
Oh,
as.
got it. Okay. Well, local officials said, oh, right there. All right. Yep. Next sentence. Honestly, same sentence, post comma. While local officials said the school is being used as a shelter for displaced civilians, at least 35 people were killed. So Israel being Israel still, it's nice to see that there's been a lot of protest internally with Israel. There's we got another Israel headline. Why don't we do the other one? We'll kind of comment more because I want to talk about the ceasefire that's proposed. I'm glad that's your headline.
All right. President Biden publicly declared a three-phase Israeli-led proposal to end the war in Gaza.
Who led it?
Israeli-led.
Oh, that's
proposal.
weird because isn't BB like saying, I never said that?
Yes, he is.
I've never said that.
Yes, he is saying that. To end the war in Gaza, including a ceasefire, hostage return,
accent.
and reconstruction. It was transmitted to Hamas last Thursday.
So there's phases to it. The first phase kind of allows the environment where they can develop the piece of the second phase, right?
So there's like a temporary ceasefire, a withdrawal of troops from certain areas.
Which makes sense. Like, I'll be able to determine how we can have peace if you can stop shooting me for 1 fucking second.
Right. And there is some hostage exchange early on.
Oh yeah. I love how they're like, okay, I got to make sure I say this right. So Hamas's leadership is like, Jews' lives are worthless and they don't deserve to live. And then, damn it, James, don't. So Hamas's leadership is saying what I just said there. And then, but at the same time, that same leadership is like, but by the way, for every 1 Jew we give you, we want 1,000.
I don't know if it's 1,000 to 1, but it is a different.
But
it's
they're saying that 1 Israeli is worth 1,000 Palestinians, but also Israelis are simultaneously worthless. Like, explain that to me.
It is odd math for sure. Sure. Yeah. So the initial phase would have some hostage exchange, and then the next phase would have additional hostage exchange, essentially all of them, supposedly. And then, sort of
Including
a path. Including Americans, and then a path to a permanent ceasefire. There is a lot of political pressure in the U.S., I think, on Biden. The NAACP came out today and said that they
Jesse
think
Jackson there.
You know what? I didn't see a press conference. I just saw a press release.
Yeah.
And so they
you
said
don't see him anymore.
No, you don't really see him anymore. And so they said that they wanted the U.S. to stop sending weapons to Israel. And NAACP doesn't really come out very often on this sort of political issue.
Yeah.
So it was interesting to see that happen, especially as we have in other news a story about
You have
uh
that? We're gonna
yes,
cover
I do.
that? Okay,
Yeah,
cool.
Israeli attempts to influence particularly black members of Congress, which is
Yes,
interesting.
using bot accounts and
Yes,
AI. Yeah, but we'll talk about that later.
very unsuccessfully, by the way.
Yes, and did you listen to that podcast with
I did.
the okay. That
Lawfare, yeah.
I you know what? Every once in a while, Lawfare has those like the lawyers of the parties that are in these hot button issues,
Right.
which is what that episode was. It was the lawyer for OpenAI.
He could
And
not sound more corporate than
dude, I can't. I come away from them like I didn't hear anything. It's like 45 minutes went by. I don't know
right.
anything different. Like,
Yeah, it was a lot of corporate speak.
hopefully
for
you
sure.
could pay attention and learn something from it. I was just like, I'm working on a fucking circle top, like Mongolian grill style thing. Like
Mm.
there was 3 burners, but only one of the pilots was lit. And I had to ask 20 different people, like, why wasn't that lit? Was there a reason you didn't have that lit before I go light it and blow my head off? Like, I'm like, okay. I said, all right. And then afterwards I was like, didn't something happen in my ears this whole time? Like, I don't remember anything, you know?
Yeah.
Wah, wah, wah.
I
Well,
get
we'll
that.
talk about it. I look forward to that headline later. President Biden? No,
No,
world leaders. World
yes.
leaders and veterans this is great. World leaders and veterans of all major countries that were involved in World War II, everyone that's important, that is, gathered in France to commemorate the 80th anniversary of D-Day. This included President Biden. This
Mhm.
included Macron.
Yes,
This
it did.
included, I actually didn't check if the German chancellor was there, but that would be awkward.
You know what? I don't think they were.
You know who wasn't invited?
Who's that?
Vladimir Putin.
He was definitely not invited, although certainly Russia played a huge part in the end of World War II.
Well,
Yeah, I
wait,
mean-
wait. And the beginning. Let's talk about that part.
also that they gave out, both Macron and Biden gave out medals, and I'm like, it's 80 years later. We should have given them medals already.
Wait,
Like,
those 60 veterans, there was like 60 World War II veterans that were there.
Mhm.
Those people didn't.
I'm sure they already had
Yeah,
some medals,
for
but they
sure.
gave them another medal.
I mean, these are people that are there that fought in the war and lived this long. They didn't necessarily do anything to deserve a medal, I
Yeah,
suppose, by like medal merit. But
I mean, I don't know all the stories.
I'm not shaming it. I mean, when I
Yeah.
listened to that story in all my news podcasts this morning, I had the same thought every time. One New Year's Day, I was on call. This is like 10 years ago now. So one New Year's Day, I was on call. It was like 12 years ago now, and I had to run a call down in Orange County at the well, it doesn't matter. It was at a mall. It was at a Nordstrom's in the mall, and that call was kicking my ass. I was working on an air conditioner the sides of it. It was like they call them boxcar units because it looks like a fucking box.
Massive.
Yeah. It's still the same thing, but it's just like a little bit more
Times
complex.
100.
Yeah, but it's still the same principles. But
Sure.
I was relatively new at the time, so it's kind of kicking my ass. I went down to get some coffee. I went to get some coffee at the Starbucks in the mall, and I saw a guy sitting in a chair with his family, with like his grandkids' family, who were, you know, like 40, and he had a World War II veteran hat on. And I just went up to him. I was like, instinctively, like, I wasn't like, oh, let me wait for a good moment. I probably interrupted them. And I was just like, hey, I'm so sorry, but thank you. Like, you saved the world. Like, you saved the world, man.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget. I've probably said it on the show before. I'll never forget what he said. He just kind of stared off, not like into space. It was like he just kind of stared off, and he just went, well, with this pause, he just went, well, that was a long, long time ago.
Oh, wow.
And just to think of, like, that guy lived a whole life since then.
Yeah. It's incredible.
Yeah.
I'll tell a quick story. My dad had a buddy. He met him because he built him a bar in his garage, or barn, I think, in Washington. And he was a World War II veteran. His name was Art, and he happened to speak German. He was of German descent. And I don't remember all the details of the story, but they were trying to take out a machine gun nest, and he used his ability to speak German to sort of throw them off and then take it out.
Yeah.
and he just kind of like it wasn't exactly casual, but just like that story, and you're just like,
it was a part of his life. He's lived
right,
his whole life since then with that
right,
fact in his head, and he told it the way you would tell anything that's like.
right, and it's just like, fuck, man, that's like incredible.
We're all so lucky we haven't had to be
Right.
forced into
And
the.
I remember I had a great uncle who was also like, I think he was there on D-Day. Um, and some of the stories he would tell, like we would we would just float around in the pool in his pool after like Bible school, Bible study nights.
Vacation
It would
Bible
just
School.
it would just be me
It's
and him.
VBS time, bro. VBS starts on Sunday.
Nice. It would just be me and him, and we'd float around the pool at night, look at the moon and the stars and stuff, and he would just tell a story or two every now and then. Mostly he was just quiet. But yeah, those guys, man, they're called the greatest generation for a reason, no doubt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll be lucky if we don't have to answer that call, I suppose, right?
Yeah, actually, and when I get into media diet, this will tie in a little bit of just sort of sometimes, and we talk about like what we lose in meaning of life, and that for many generations of humans, there was sort of a rite of passage, and there was sort of a proving yourself as a man, as a warrior, things like that we don't do anymore. And there are people that still seek that out, and that story
Yeah. Did you?
is,
I listened to the Sam Harris episode with Sebastian Younger that came up.
dude, that's the book.
Not the book you read.
Yeah. I kind of
so I was still dealing with my anxiety was like coming
Yeah.
up for several days. And at one point I was listening to that podcast
Yeah.
and I was like, I can't listen to this anymore. Like it's
dude, I'm actually I'm glad I would rather you didn't, because they spoil way too much of the book in the interview, in my opinion.
Okay. All right.
So don't listen to that. Get the book and
All right,
listen
cool.
to
I
the
mean,
book.
I love Sebastian Younger. Yeah.
Just same.
Yeah.
All right, we'll get to it. All right. President Putin said Russia could provide long-range weapons to others to strike Western targets after the U.S. approved use of its weapons to
You said
strike
this on Wednesday. I have a sound for next week's show, I think. Yeah.
very limited targets in Russia. So essentially, Putin was like, well,
It's fucking retarded. Oh, we don't say that. God
we
damn
don't
it.
say that anymore.
Shit.
But Putin. So first of all, Putin hasn't had a press conference where he like took questions from Western journalists since the start of this war. So this just happened for the first time since the beginning of the Ukraine invasion. And so when he was asked a bunch of questions, he was like, "Well, look, if they're going to do it, turnabout's fair play. We can do it too."
It doesn't make any sense. He's the one that invaded his neighbor.
Yes, of course it does.
Like he's like, well, and did you see the news today that 3 ships are there's I don't know ships by classification, but there's a sub, there's and 2 other ships that, or maybe 3 other ships that are en route to Cuba.
Oh,
Yeah, so there's find out to this threat.
interesting. No, I did not see that actually.
I've seen this one before.
Nice. Nice.
The Bay of Pigs. Yeah.
Right. All right. We can move on.
That's not Bay of Pigs. That's the missile. Damn it. Fucking, I
That's-
act like I know so much.
It's
And
the
then
crisis.
dude,
Yeah.
just shut up, Alan.
JFK.
That's my new favorite thing, by the way. I tell Natasha all the time. I go, shut up, Alan. Like, fun. It just rolls off the tongue,
That and elderly abuse.
Yeah. Well, only when you set me up. It's not my fault.
Right.
You keep asking me, do
I
I
know.
know what's funny? I'm glad that you're on board with it, apparently. I still had something I wanted to say about the D-Day thing. It'll come to me later on in the show, and this will be the tag that brings it. This is the asterisk, guys.
Okay. All right.
A gunman fired at the U.S. Embassy in Beirut, Lebanon today after this was 2 days ago, after Lebanese soldiers captured the man, a Syrian national, after a 30-minute shootout. Kind of interesting. There's also stories of other people fleeing the scene. This guy had something that looked an awful lot like an ISIS, or he had an IS.
Mm-hmm. Like bulletproof vest or something
on his plate. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm real hesitant to believe these things early on, but I don't know if it went away. Early on, they were saying that he said this is in solidarity of Gaza. Yeah. What more do you know about this one?
I think there was some sort of insignia on his uniform as well that related to Israel-Gaza war. But yeah, I didn't see a lot of reporting about this.
Yeah, I got an Atlas News update while we were
Yeah.
doing the Tuesday show, and I meant to
Okay.
bring it up, and I thought I dropped the ball, and then nobody else talked about it.
Yeah, nobody talked about it. So it's just a random Syrian dude shooting at an embassy.
so.
He was injured in the
Next
the
thing you're
Dread
going to
Flyer
tell me
team.
these Chechens that live in Chicago and go get a job at a utility company in North Carolina and happen to stumble upon the wrong house. Like just imagine imagine like the absurdity of that play. It's like, okay, here's what we're going to do. We are the Russian security, the Russian CIA, the FSB, right?
Right.
You know what? Doesn't matter. Let's go with FSB.
Sure.
And we're gonna
GRU, FSB, whatever.
okay, we're gonna get these Chechens into the United States. We're gonna sneak them in, and we're gonna go make them live in Chicago.
Have them work for a power plant, but not where the polo.
And then we're gonna have them go
with the
work for a
brand on
power
it.
plant in North Carolina. We're gonna give them no cover story, not an effective documentation for it.
Right.
And the whole time they're just doing like that doesn't make any sense. Like, yeah, I mean, I get it. Ha ha ha, Russians incompetent, but like that's like, you know, that's
It's a stretch.
Yeah,
By any means, it's a stretch.
It's a stretch.
Yeah.
I don't
let me
blame
just
the
hit.
guy. I don't blame the guy though. I mean, if I live out in the sticks somewhere, you shouldn't be taking pictures of my house. Like,
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
it is fair. You should be dead.
All right, let me just go back real quick. We missed the headline. Prime Minister
Sorry.
Modi's
Shit, that was a big one.
coalition won a majority
All right,
in
just
India's
say it again.
parliament.
Say it again. Nobody heard
Okay.
the beginning. I was talking over you.
Prime Minister Modi's coalition won a majority in India's parliament, but his party lost its outright majority for the first time in 10 years, per official but still partial results. The opposition has not yet conceded. So, by all accounts, Modi seems to have won enough seats to control the parliament. He will, however, have to likely make a coalition government, which means he'll have to work with some parties that don't entirely agree with his agenda. So Modi has been a pretty successful PM, I would say, in India. However, recently, his sort of some of his stances, specifically about like religious minorities in India, have been more and more problematic.
Oh, you want to hear some of that? I was listening to Underworld Did you listen to the newest episode of Underworld?
No.
Here.
Okay.
The guy's speeches in Hindi are slipping into full-blown nuts fascism. Take this as a recent example from last month, because he's on the campaign trail, right? Quote, Muslims have first rights over resources. They will gather all your wealth and distribute it to those who have more children. They will distribute amongst infiltrators. Do you think your hard-earned money should be given to infiltrators? Would you accept this?
I was kicking myself I didn't get that into the big show. I'm so glad this is in the headline show.
Oh, awesome. Yeah,
Dude,
yeah. He's become more and more and more problematic. He always was, but it seems like he's leaning into it as his regime has progressed. So I guess you could, sort of think of this as a bit of a pushback from the Indian public. I mean, you got like 1 billion registered voters over there.
Dude, that was crazy, right? Like
It's
that.
crazy.
So
it took him like weeks, like 6 weeks, I think, to conduct the election.
When I heard that it was like 1 billion registered voters, like, look, I know there's more than 1 billion people in that country, but like, how young is the voting age? Because that's a weird demographic. I guess they have a lot of elderly too, like many, but they have a lot of youngs too. But maybe they're right in that bell curve. I don't know. We should ask Peter Zion.
They must.
Peter
Yeah,
Zion.
we should. We should. Yeah, they must be. That's actually I didn't.
That's an insanely high percentage.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
like the U.S. doesn't even get like.
Yeah, well, that's because we don't show up. But like
eligible
voters is still not,
right.
The 4/5 of our population.
Definitely not.
Yeah,
definitely not.
Anyway,
all right, we should move on.
That's huge though. So like the takeaway from that is the minority party or his opposition is celebrating like they won. You know the whole meme where it's like some guys celebrating throwing champagne,
air dicking.
Doing Donald Trump's dance. They're squirting champagne. I won't stop. They're squirting champagne and biting the metal like they won the gold, and then you pan out, it's the third place guy. You know,
right?
Yeah. That's what the losing party did in this. It's like the Democrats after 2022, because it wasn't a red wave, because Republicans decided to overturn Roe versus Wade and then run on abortion. It's like, yeah, keep it up though. Keep it up. Let's see how 2024 goes.
Well, and we've had headlines like about the Sikh population in India, what's happening in Canada with Sikhs being assassinated.
That was a really good daily.
Like, yeah, it was.
Oh wait, no, I'm fucking up. No. That's what the Underworld was about.
That was Underworld. Okay.
Yeah, listen to this newest Underworld. It's okay. Really
good. But yeah, so we've seen some of this unrest sort of unfolding throughout the entire globe for a while. The Indian diaspora is massive, and their population is massive. So obviously, any movement politically there sort of has waves throughout the world. So yeah, interesting to see this result.
Yep. Okay.
All right.
Opening
8.
statements will
Yes.
begin today. That one, right?
Mhm.
Opening statements began, I think, yesterday, right?
Yeah, I think it was yesterday.
Okay. Opening statements began yesterday in Delaware in Hunty Bide's criminal trial over federal gun charges after a 12-person jury was selected. Remember, Joe Biden is weaponizing the Department of Justice to prosecute his son, who fucking deserves it. Like,
Yeah. Yeah, I was curious because I kept thinking about the charge here, and I was like, this is not that big of a deal. Like,
No.
would a normal person be charged with this, and what would the consequences potentially be? So I looked it up. It can be up to 25 years in prison for this
you
felony.
know what's funny? I guarantee you those laws exist because of Democrats.
Probably. Now, for a first-time offender and somebody who didn't actually use the weapon in any sort of violent form. In fact, they're alleging that he never even loaded the gun.
No, he
He just had it.
yeah.
And then Haley threw it in the
Okay, go with him,
dumpster.
Haley.
She threw it in the dumpster because she was like, "You shouldn't have this gun."
Yeah.
And that's how it was found. Eventually turned to the police and the whole thing.
Right.
Which that whole story, that and the laptop is just so wild that all
Who's Haley? Nikki Haley?
Haley
I had
is
black friends growing up. No.
Haley is Bo's ex that briefly had
She
an
testified
affair.
against him?
She testified. She didn't testify against him, I would say, but she testified, yeah.
Who testifies neutrally? David Pecker. He's the David Pecker of this.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, so she like took the gun and threw it. It was never loaded, it was never used. So in cases like that,
So you're telling me I could buy a pristine Hunter Biden owned handgun?
oh, that's it. That would be a piece to put on
Is
the
this
wall,
shit on the
right?
market?
I
I'm
don't
gonna go on
know.
Gun Broker right now.
I don't think it was a very it wasn't like a nice gun. It was
You
kind
tell me Hunter Biden doesn't buy good guns.
I mean, I wouldn't expect him to
Hunter Biden, the New York financier, Hunter Biden?
the Burisma executive?
Yeah, the Burisma executive, Hunter Biden. That's my new thing, is the whole Epstein joke where the guy's like, the New York financier. I was listening to something where they were like, somebody was pretending they didn't know who Germany was in World War II. And they're like, the New York financier, Germany? That's going to be my new. You guys are going to hear that bit too much. Get used to it.
All right, fun. All right, move on. Senator Bob Menendez, currently on trial for federal bribery charges, filed to run for re-election as an independent, foregoing the Democratic primary.
Oh,
Bob
that's hilarious.
Menendez, the halal guy,
Did we talk about
the Egypt guy.
dude? I'm gonna get some halal guy when we're in New York next week.
Oh,
Can't wait.
dude, that's some good
legit
shit.
fucking what do you call it? It's not schmegma.
Shawarma.
That's right.
Shawarma. I love me some
30-year-old schmegma.
That was a good headline. I wish that website wasn't
Headline,
so shitty.
get it, so to speak.
Right. So to speak.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Bob Menendez.
Bob Menendez, who essentially had been sort of kicked out of the Democratic Party.
Jersey, right?
Jersey, yes.
Okay.
Is now filing to run as an independent. The weird thing is, it's possible he could win that seat, even with all this stuff happening.
I don't think so. Everybody so that's fine. I get what you're saying. Everybody that I know in Jersey, when this happened, they're like, good piece of shit. Like, you know.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I think people knew.
I don't think he has a chance of winning it. I think
I hope not.
Yeah.
I hope
he's
not.
a bad dude.
He's a bad dude.
Sleazy politician.
And he's
I
done
don't care
some.
what party he is. I don't care what party he is because I'm independent.
All right, should we hit the next one?
Oh, my turn.
Yes.
Mexico. We talked about this a little bit. Mexican Americans don't like to just get into gang fights. They elect Claudia Sheinbaum as president by a wide margin. Claudia Sheinbaum is the first female president of not Los Estados Unidos, Mexico. She was a former energy scientist, and she is succeeding her fellow party ally, Andres Manuel Lopez Obrador. Oh, you hear me roll my mouth? It's pretty good.
Guacamole.
Chunks of avocado in the guacamole. And became the first woman to hold office on October 1st. So what?
Will become.
That's a long time.
Yeah, it's wild.
Huh.
It's like 4 months.
November, December, January.
3 months. It's about the same.
June, July, August,
September.
That's a lot more. That's a long time. Yo, man.
It's a long runway.
Yeah. Well, man, I can't wait till they have a January 6th. They got time to organize it.
They have plenty of time.
Oh, wait, the cartels still have plenty to do.
There's
But
that
they're
too.
not mad. They're like, it's the same. It's the same. We know what to do. So it's a continuation of the same government.
It is,
He
and
was
so
an underling within his administration.
right.
This would be like Pete Buttigieg winning because she's a girl and I've picked damn it. God damn it. Alan saved me.
So
We're never gonna get Al Gore on this show.
Manuel Lopez Obrador could not run again
Cool.
because of Mexican their constitution only allows you to run or have one term of 6 years. So unlike the American system, this wasn't some sort of referendum on him. In fact, it was probably pro him if you think about it.
Yeah, he would have been reelected.
He
I was
would've-
surprised. I didn't know they could only do one term. I feel like
They can only
the
do one
Central
term.
Park had 2 terms, but I guess the 6-year term. By the way, that's what I want us to have. Imagine our politics if you couldn't get a second term and you only had one 6-year term. You don't have to worry about getting reelected a year after you win your first one.
Actually, that's interesting.
That's a solution.
Yeah, no, I can see it.
Yeah.
I can see it.
But imagine these
There
people
is some-
saying you don't get to keep your job as long. Nobody's going to vote for that.
Right. Nobody's going to amend the Constitution for that. But yeah, so that's how their system works. This is essentially a continuation of what was already happening. And so, yeah, Mexico got a women president before we did, which is weird considering.
Is it?
I don't know. Kind of is.
They enshrined abortion in their constitution too.
Also true. You know, I was listening to this podcast about
Catholics?
no, Cherokees in North Carolina, actually. And the Cherokee Nation, like their system when they first interacted with Europeans was they had a council of women elders that had to agree on anything that they were going to sign, like a treaty or whatever.
And sexist.
And so, and they were all, so when they would interact with Europeans, they'd be like, where's the
Where are your women?
Because we don't do anything unless the women say, like, we're not going to sign off on that unless, so that was just an interesting thing to think about, like the way they organized their culture.
I don't know enough about their like cultural dynamics.
They had a council of like, I think it was like 7 or 8 elders.
No, but that has to reflect something, right? Like
I'm sure. Yeah. Oh, and also whenever they interacted, like everybody had a voice, like everybody in the tribe literally had a voice. So the Europeans would get really frustrated because they'd be like talking for months and months and months because everybody had to be able to get their word in before they would decide on something. So they could spend months and months trying to agree on something. And then the Cherokees would be like, nah, we're not going to do that, which I fucking love. That's beautiful, man.
Yeah, it has its drawbacks, but
Sure,
it is different. And then there's something to be appreciated there. Right?
Well, and especially if you think about it in the
with a small
context of that time.
Yes. Yeah. So progressive, these Cherokees. We have so much to learn. Back to the land, Alan.
Is it my turn?
Yeah.
Okay. The European Central Bank cut interest rates for the first
Whoa.
time since
Do
2019.
they have a presidential? Oh, the European parliamentary elections are this weekend.
I don't know if that's related, but diverging from U.S. policy, so they cut rates. They cut rates by 0.25%. Inflation in Europe has been more under control than domestically here in the U.S.
Don't you besmirch the good name of Jerome? What is his name? Jerome Powell? I don't mean that.
So yeah, they cut rates by 0.25%, which is pretty significant. Obviously, they're like, well, we don't take our cues from the Fed. We do what we think feels.
They have
right.
their own central bank.
Yeah. But that's a massive.
They all
central
talk.
bank.
They all talk because
They all
I said it a million times. The
They do
idea
all
of
talk,
2% annual.
It's a structural.
So
concept.
prior to us having 9% interest rates, when we didn't pay attention to, prior to us having 9% inflation, we didn't pay attention to inflation, but it grew by about 2% every year. And that was a designed acceptable number. That number was entirely made up out of whole cloth by New Zealand Central Bank a long time ago. When these central banks had one of their meetings, they're like, we like this number. And they said, okay, that's a good number.
Just
and
like the 6-foot rule.
It kind of is, which is like the same rule I have when like a new cowboy hat shows up. It just sort of appeared. We were like, it's a 6-foot rule. I can't explain how it got here.
That's fine. That's how these things work.
TXSE. I am so glad you have this. I thought it was just my chat groups that I was in. So dude, you should see what this is doing in the fucking finance bros groups, dude.
Really?
Oh
Okay.
my god. Vibe shift has been going on a lot. Dude, you
Mm.
don't have anything here about roaring kitty, roaring kitty, deep fucking value.
No.
Deep fucking value. So, Alan, deep fucking value, roaring kitty, nothing. The guy,
The GameStop guy?
the GameStop guy, yeah.
Okay.
So the GameStop, you know about this, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So the GameStop guy announced his position, basically doing the same thing again because I'm going to try to say this right, but I'm a dummy. The short squeeze never went away. Most of those people made it through that. The GameStop, some of those guys made a lot of money. I actually recommend watching the movie Funny Money. No, Dumb Money. It's a telling of a recent history that does a pretty good job. But that's not neither here nor there, but it's too much of a diversion for me. So the guy behind the GameStop Holden Diamond Hands, everything from 2021, right?
Yeah.
He announced his position on GameStop again and created a new it created a new frenzy, which by the way fucking happens, right? Like when Berkshire Hathaway guy, old man Warren Buffett announces his position on something, nobody creates a fucking investigation into whatever.
Or when Elon Musk talks about Dogecoin, you
know?
Right.
So, but the GameStop guy, there's another version of 2021 again. It's up to $42, or at least it was midday today. People are thinking it's going to go up to 70. I don't know if it'll go to 70, but GameStop's, to the moon, diamond hands, Holden, hodl. And in that context, at the same time, TXSE, which is a stock exchange backed by BlackRock and Citadel, announced plans to file with the SEC to create a new national stock exchange based in Texas. So the finance bros that are pissed off with Wall Street are basically saying, we're going to win here. They're going to move the center of finance from Wall Street to Dallas or wherever this is going to be centered at. Do you understand what I'm saying? Can you kind of connect those dots a little bit better than I've?
Yeah, I can. So there is a lot of hype around this stock exchange as being like, Texas will be the new center of the financial world in the US. I think that's
people like the water for a reason. There's just something about humanity that doesn't need to be in Dallas. I'll just say that.
Well, I think it's not okay. So first of all, there are financial exchanges outside of Wall Street throughout the US. There's one in San Francisco, there's one in Pennsylvania, and nobody pays attention.
One in Los Angeles, I think. No, there is.
There is. Yeah. There's like 12, 13 of them already out there. It's not that big of a deal. Nobody pays attention. The only interesting thing is that perhaps you can get your trades executed faster if you're closer to the locus of that financial.
Yeah, but that sounds like something that was true before, online instant.
Before optics, fiber optic. Yeah. But I mean, there are so there are companies that do this shit that trade these.
Where they put their office specifically close enough so they can ping closer to those. Yeah, I remember that. There was like a Radio Lab about that, I feel like.
Yeah, that has happened. It's less common now because it's not as effective. But even like
I think the biggest thing about this is that BlackRock and Citadel are a part of this.
$120 million behind it, which doesn't seem like that much considering. One of the interesting things in this article that they mentioned was that the number of companies who are actually publicly traded has dropped significantly since the 90s, which I wasn't aware of. There were something like 8,000 publicly traded companies in the 90s. And it's down to like 3,700, so less than half. A lot of these companies that were previously publicly traded have gone off the public market because of regulatory issues, etc. They just don't want all that scrutiny. Because if you're a publicly traded company, you have to open up your books. You have to show your financial statements, all this. And
so is it just better for companies to have private investment than being publicly traded? That
is the decision that corporations have made. Something like the runway to going from private to public was something like 3 or 4 years in the 90s. Now it's over 11 years, which is interesting to me because that seems to indicate that the market is saying the market is saying the regulation is too much and we don't want to deal with that. Now, what does that mean? Does that mean that they're right and that the regulators should pull back? Or does that mean we're trying to do shady shit and we don't want that on on the open market?
Yeah, right.
I mean, so you could see that both ways. I don't think this is as big of a deal as some of these tech or these finance bros are trying to make it out to be. It's not going to change anything significantly in the financial markets. That's my take.
Yeah, I tend to think that inertia is at play here, and it's just.
Well, I mean,
nobody
what could
really-
possibly go wrong with a system in Texas like ERCOT? I mean, like
Are they going to be on that power grid?
hope you don't get a snowstorm.
Or just a quarter-inch of ice.
Right, it's going to be fine. It's going to be fine.
You want to get into other news?
Yeah. Okay, we got a lot. How far? Are
Okay,
we?
well, pick what you want.
All right, we're good. All right.
I don't put these in there for you to do all of them.
I know. All right, so this first one is actually from Lawfare. This is a Roger Parloff article. Who's
love him.
He's awesome.
Yeah,
yeah. Him and Ben.
I'd rather have him on the show than Ben. Oh, don't shit. We already invited Ben. Has he responded?
He never responded.
Okay, well, let's find one for Roger.
But I don't know that sometimes you get these publicly accessible emails. I don't know how often they're actually checked, so I don't know if it's actually a functional email.
We should send him a follow up.
I will.
It'll be a 2.
Maybe actually. You know what? We should reach out on social media instead of email.
See, I feel like that's less official. I feel like I'm lucky when I pull them in from there, but I'll try that. Yeah.
I do have.
I mean, why not Zoidberg, right?
Right. I do have him on my Instagram, so I can.
Okay. Well,
all right. So there was a lot of sort of back and forth about whether or not Alvin Bragg should have even brought this hush money case, as we've discussed on the show before. Of all the cases against Trump, it was pretty weak. Cy Vance, the previous DA, had decided not to go forward with this prosecution. And there was a prosecutor that worked for a lawyer that worked for him that wrote a book, which Parloff bases a lot of this article on, about his sort of frustration with what Cy Vance did with the case. And this lawyer initially wanted to build the case more around the civil case that went forward, around the way he said, an asset was worth something when it was for a tax purpose versus an asset was worth something when it was for a loan purpose, things like that. And he wanted to pursue a criminal trial on that. But he also found this hush money stuff, and he thought maybe we could do something about that. Cy Vance, his determination was that this case wasn't worth pursuing. And when Alvin Bragg came in, he reviewed the facts of the case and decided, no, I think this should go forward. And a couple of things that Parloff points out in this article, which I think are very important, is that we've already had Weisselberg convicted. We've had Cohen convicted. And in both cases, Trump was named as an unindicted co-conspirator, right? So we've had these men convicted who are part of Trump's organization, did jail time.
And Weisselberg didn't cooperate.
Right.
What was the guy in the Barry Bonds thing? What was the cream and the clear guy?
The cream and the clear guy?
Went to prison for Barry Bonds.
Right.
That's Weisselberg in this, right?
Yeah, it's sort of a similar thing.
Yeah.
So
a Scooter Libby with Dick Cheney.
There you go. Yeah. So Parloff's argument was like, look, we have these cases that have gone to trial and people have been convicted of where Trump is named, but nobody's ever actually pursued him for the same things that these guys went to jail for.
It's kind of weird. He's related to all these things that everybody around him happens to be doing, but not him. Right. Okay.
Right. So in Parloff's final conclusion, just to sum it up, he says, look, I think Bragg did the right thing. He should have brought this case. It makes sense. There's no legal continuity where Cohen and Weisselberg go to jail and this guy doesn't, or at least doesn't face
like 50 years ago from now, people with clear eyes will look at him and be like, you didn't charge him?
Right.
Yeah,
definitely.
At least bring it to court. He could have won. He didn't, because the evidence proved he committed it. And you might not like the way it was escalated to the felony thing, and
and they're going to appeal that, and we'll see what happens. But as of now, it's 34-0. So there you go. All right, this next one. This is a BYD. This is the EV.
Nobody talks about this in America.
This is the EV manufacturer in China. Importantly, they also manufacture hybrid vehicles, and they are now claiming that they have a hybrid that can go like 1,300 miles without a refuel stop, which is crazy. that so essentially they're
You don't
saying you
get
can
that with
go
a car. You don't get it with a combustion engine.
no 1,300 miles is they're saying you can go from like New York to Miami
Will it
without
catch on fire? I feel like their
no.
cars catch on fire in China.
So interestingly, what's interesting about BYD's been around for a while, like 2000,
It
early
was one of the
2000s.
ones like Elon always shit on them.
Yes, in fact, famously, and I remember watching this interview where the reporter asked him, "Are you worried about BYD sort of infringing on your market share?" And he just scoffs in that sort of Elon sort of way
Oh.
and says, "Have you seen their cars?" Like essentially saying, like
yourself.
yeah, essentially saying like, "No, that's a shitty product. I ain't worried. It's fine. We can compete with them all
Which
day."
is probably true at the time, maybe.
Probably was, but
Remember when
they made
Teslas were like a luxury car and now like
yeah,
Fords do the same thing?
right. And so now they are absolutely like taking over the market in places
Not
outside
in
of
America
well,
because
because
Joe
tariffs.
Biden.
Because tariffs. Yeah. And so now clearly they are a competitor to Tesla and other EV manufacturers. Their hybrid is like
Eevee, the
half.
Pokemon?
No,
Okay,
that's
sorry.
good though. It's nice
Thanks. That
Pokemon
was a good
knowledge.
pull.
That was a good pull. So their hybrid, which would be like equivalent to like the Prius, is half the price. It's like
Oh,
14,000
yeah. Did you
versus
say 13?
14,000 versus 28,000 for a Prius.
And
So
I
pretty.
can't buy one?
No, well, you can, but it'll cost you 28,000 because there's
Oh, because you got to double it with
110%.
tariffs.
Yes,
Well,
yes.
28,000 for a hybrid that'll go 13,000 miles actually still sounds like a good deal.
It does sound pretty good. 1,300 miles, I think, not
Oh,
13,000.
yeah, that's what I meant to say.
Yeah. Anyway, so that's interesting. Let's see. Castration for I write my own headlines in some of these other news. Castration for pedos. So this is Louisiana has put forward I don't think the governor has signed it yet, but
This is one of those headlines where you're like, you know what? Not going to make the argument against this.
yeah.
My instinct is good. My other instinct is this will probably ruin some innocent people's lives. But you're not going to really catch me going to court and fighting for these.
Yeah.
Stuff.
I don't even know if the ACLU would sign up to defend this.
Not
but
the ACLU now, but they probably would have. Fire might.
Fire might. Louisiana passes surgical castration bill for child sex offenders.
Jesus, surgical castration. Not even like
chemical castration is already a thing in many states, including the state I live in, which I was surprised to find out in California.
Wait. Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Let's talk about terms here. So castration means removing the genitalia, right?
They remove the testes or the ovaries, depending on your sex. Yes.
I don't think that stops you from diddling.
It doesn't. Although,
so what's the
and one of the arguments against this is that there is really no like scientific evidence that this would have any sort of
right. What if they're welders?
So this is the first bill of its kind. And again, I sort of echo your sentiment in like I don't know that anybody is gonna like, want to die on that hill to defend this. Couple of things which I probably will get missed in most coverage of this story. If you are convicted of that crime and you go to jail, so this is supposed to happen after you serve your term in jail. You have the option to either
so you get to experience jail with full genitalia.
Yes. Yeah. And so then once your term is over, you can either opt for this or you can opt
in jail.
Yes, opt for more time in jail.
What if you liked the butt rapes in the shower part?
Yeah, that's not mentioned.
Sorry, you know what? I'm sorry, that wasn't very funny.
I like
so.
rape.
So
your secret lover.
I have two more, Alan.
I will go till you tell me to stop.
Okay, one more.
I'll be the best sex you will ever have.
Thanks, Chris Hansen.
So this is if you're convicted of pedophilia of a minor 13 years of age or younger in Louisiana. And again, you have the option to either spend more time in prison or be surgically castrated.
So is it up? Like, is the governor, is it iffy if he's going to sign it, or is he just not got around to it?
I think it's iffy if he's going to sign it based on what I read.
Given what they've been doing down there, I'm surprised. That sounds like a slam dunk for their
It does.
Yeah.
I'm surprised that I guess nobody thought of it, but I'm surprised this sort of legislation hasn't attempted to be passed in other states like Florida, etc. But it is a weird thing because, like, a part of me is very much like, no, this is like capital punishment. I don't like this. I don't
Right.
like the state doing this sort of thing.
Right.
Another part of me is like,
I don't have any sympathy for you. Yeah.
yeah, like
But it's the
fuck 'em.
same problems of wrongfully accused, right? Like
It
that's
is
that you don't. Yeah.
right. That
But
is
aside from that, fuck these.
right. Yes. All right. Enough of that. Let's move on.
Okay.
All right. Witnesses get bonuses. So
What?
this is what ProPublica came out with some reporting that shows that a number of people who have had to testify in various Trump trials who work for the Trump organization on various levels, the campaign, Trump Corp itself, or whatever, various ancillaries of this, have received massive bonuses and pay increases pre their testimony in these legal cases. And so this could be very problematic retroactively if somebody wanted to appeal some of these cases and say, look, this witness that testified X got their salary doubled by the Trump organization before they testified in Trump's case, is essentially the breakdown of that.
You're talking about appeals if
Trump won.
If Trump won. Oh.
And they want to say,
because the government can appeal, I guess, right?
yes. So they can say, hey, wait a minute, like this is, you did that. Clearly that person had a reason to testify in a certain way.
The one that stood out to me was because I heard, like, I didn't read this article, but I heard about it. There was a woman that worked for Trump or something there was a woman that had testified positively for Trump.
Yeah.
And now works in the campaign, and she's like the second or third highest paid employee.
She got her daughter employed, and she's
That's
like the fourth highest paid employee in that organization. There's evidence of people going from like 30,000 a month, which is crazy. Give me that job.
A month.
To 50,000. Like it's and so the Trump people are saying, well, Trump didn't have any direct involvement in any of their pay decisions, and we're just doing this through the normal course of business. They took on more tasks, etc., and so they deserved it. I mean, it looks bad. At very least, it doesn't look good.
I think there's going to be a lot of follow up on this. I think it
so.
didn't grab a lot of attention because I saw this. I never heard from it again. And I forgot about it after I put it in the other news segment. There's no way this doesn't have legs.
I that could be.
You're thinking of puns with legs, right?
I am, but I couldn't find it. So yeah, it definitely could. It definitely could. All right, let's move on. Okay. Israel attempts to influence Congress. They have a Ministry of Diaspora Affairs. I don't know what I never heard that term before, but it sounds dystopian.
Although when you think of diasporas, Israeli diaspora
makes perfect sense.
Under it, sure.
Yeah. It's them in India is probably the top two, I would guess. So essentially, what the reporting is alleging is that Israel used various sort of cyber operations to attempt to influence members of Congress. Hakeem Jeffries and Raphael Warnock are mentioned by name in the article as targets. So they made these fake, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter accounts and posted on or at these politicians and attempted to influence them
with AI generated material, right?
Using Chat GPT to generate sort of what their posts would be. Chat GPT noticed and sort of stopped them from doing this, as well as social media companies noticed and took them down. They never got very far. I think some of them were up to like 40,000 followers, and that was all. They really didn't have that much impact.
That was all.
Well, when they can
40,000 followers.
Well, but so when social media companies look at this, they have a scale of like,
and they see like all these people showed up overnight. They obviously are a bot.
So their actual influence is very minimal. But it's interesting that a branch of the Israeli government specifically attempted to influence American politicians, specifically
African American.
Yeah.
Like, so do I hear this right? These blacks in America sure love our cause. Maybe if we put some targeted material towards them, we'll get them to influence their followers. Is that what Israel thought when they put this together?
I mean, I think it's difficult.
Don't sign that, Alan. I said something outrageous.
Yes. I think it's difficult to speculate on their intent, but I mean, based on their actions, I think that's a plausible.
Sounds kind of racist.
It does. It does.
I mean, I'm not
Well,
surprised.
also, perhaps they thought that demo was maybe more in the camp of
Sympathetic.
protesting what was happening. I mean, like I mentioned earlier, the NAACP came out today and said, "Look, we don't want you to send weapons to Israel anymore." And I think that in that demographic, perhaps there is more sympathy for the
Connecting
Palestinians.
dots from earlier in the show.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah.
Yeah, they didn't go after Ilhan Omar.
They did not,
No.
or Jayapal, or AOC. Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
That's a big story, dude.
It is a big story
because they can just make new accounts.
Yeah.
You just make a new ChatGPT account, make a new fake person, and do it.
Well, and I think, we have stories all the time about Iran, Russia, China doing stuff like this, and we sort of expect that. I don't know that we expect a country like Israel to do the same thing, but realistically, we should not be surprised by these kind of stories. I think, like, pretty much any country with an agenda, I wouldn't put past doing something like this.
Sure.
We should just get used to it at this point.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Along the lines of like when people are like, what about there's like AI deep fake, porns? It's like, well, there'll be a time where we just roll our eyes and say, okay, it's obviously not real. Like,
right.
We're used to this.
Yeah.
I wanted to play this clip because I often play antiwar.com to shit on Dave DeCamp for being somewhat unreasonable in some things. But I listen to him because I am at my core an anti-war person. I just happen to, in our modern day, tend to think that Ukraine might have a good point in not letting Russia just overrun their country.
Sure.
And, okay, anyways. So in this clip, I wanted to play this because this is sort of a balance to that, because this is why I like to listen to the show. I didn't know this story. This didn't show up in any of my other news feeds. The first place I heard this was antiwar.com. I want to play that.
Okay.
Oh, just kidding. I'm shitting on Dave DeCamp. Listen to what he says here.
Israeli ministry, and documents about the campaign has not been previously reported. Fake reporter and Israeli misinformation watchdog identified the effort in March. Last week, Meta, which owns Facebook and Instagram, and OpenAI.
I feel like there's something noteworthy there.
Last week, Meta, which owns Facebook and Instagram, and OpenAI.
Facebook own OpenAI?
I didn't know they owned OpenAI. Oh, actually, yeah, I did know that.
Oh, yeah, actually, I did know that factual thing that I knew.
Sorry. So that's what makes ChatGPT.
Silly of mine to think that. Why would I question myself for one fucking second? Of course, Facebook owns OpenAI. Alan, I don't know if your Google fingers are already working. I can tell you right now, Microsoft owns 49% of OpenAI.
Yes.
The remainder is owned by shareholders. Yes,
Right.
Those shareholders are people like BlackRock and Sequoia Capital and all those sleazebag people. And maybe there's a small position by Facebook,
by Meta,
which would be weird as a competitor since they
have their own AI project.
I
mean, Microsoft famously owns part of AI.
49%, Alan.
Yeah.
Yes,
they were going to take
Meta, who owns OpenAI.
They were going to take Sam Altman and make him in a whole new OpenAI and Microsoft's environment because the board was going to kick him out,
and then they hired him back because they were like, no, you cannot do that, Sam Altman. All right.
That's pretty funny.
Yeah. And he's like, wait, that's not true. Oh, yeah, of course that's true. I knew that.
I knew that.
I got it. I mean, I say it almost every week. I'll edit your show for you.
Yeah.
Like, I don't mind editing your show. I'll cut out all the times you cough. He just coughs into the microphone.
God.
There's a button.
There's a button
right there. It's fine. Like,
there's a button. I have one too. All right, one more. I put this in here. I think this is interesting, and I don't think it's getting enough coverage. Washington Post CEO promised interview for ignoring scandal. NPR.
Oh, the flag store?
No.
Okay.
So if I say Folkenflick, does that name?
I don't think you're supposed to say that anymore.
So Folkenflick has been a reporter for NPR for decades, I want to say at this point.
Okay.
He reports on media primarily. Really kind of a solid dude. Like his reporting is
solid
very,
dude, huh?
Very trustworthy. All right. So I don't know if you heard about this, but the executive editor from the Washington Post resigned over the weekend. Unclear as to why.
Really? Mysterious circumstances? Oh my God.
They're being replaced by a Wall Street Journal executive to do the same thing intermittently. So a lot of weird stuff happening at the Washington Post. We had that reporting about the flag where the Post.
Do you mean Jeff Bezos owned Washington Post?
Yeah.
Okay. The Amazon reporting outfit.
Yes.
Truth dies in
So
democracy dies in the dark.
democracy dies in the darkness. Yeah. So we had, the New York Times reported on the Alito flag, and then a week later, the a week later, the Post came out and was like, yeah, we had that story. We just decided not to publish it. And then, like, we probably should have. We probably fucked up. All right. So this is now, Folk and Flick is coming out and saying that the current CEO of the Washington Post,
the new one,
had approached him.
And Falcon Flick still works at Washington Post.
No, Folk and Flick works for NPR. And so he was willing to have an interview with him about things, but he wanted him to lay off the story.
I'm really sorry. Falcon Flick said that the new CEO
of
the Washington Post,
the current CEO,
the current one appointed that came from Wall Street Journal.
No, this guy came from the UK. That's what's interesting. No. So he worked for Murdoch Properties in the UK.
Can you just briefly start over?
I'm going to reset. Okay. All right. Okay. The current CEO of the Washington Post, previous to his job there, worked for Rupert Murdoch Properties in the UK, various news agencies in the UK. There was a scandal, which you probably remember, wherein they were hacking people's cell phones to get reporting. You remember this, right? Okay. So he was involved in that scandal as somebody who worked
CEO at Washington Post.
Yes. Yeah. He was involved in that scandal in the UK working for Murdoch. And then came to the Post. So Folk and Flick is now saying that he was like, yeah, I'll do an interview with you, but you got to lay off the reporting about the hacking of the cell phones. You got to stop that. Now, that happened before he was in place as a Washington Post CEO. But based on all the turmoil happening at the Post, executive editor resigning, the whole flag reporting, and now this case or this reporting coming out.
The executive editor came from Wall Street Journal. Okay.
Yeah.
The CEO came from Rupert Murdoch.
Right. So
based on all this turmoil.
All this turmoil, it kind of looks like the Post is imploding a little bit, and the New York Times is sort of eating the popcorn and watching is kind of my impression of that whole thing. If you read the story in the Times where they're reporting about this, it seems pretty obvious. They're like, look at this fucking guy. Wow. Yeah, so I don't know what's going on over there, but I would not want to be an employee of the Post currently.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, my first thought was people are going to cancel subscriptions if they're hiring a Rupert Murdoch CEO. Like, dude, that doesn't really like match the demographics of their subscribers.
And
the chief editor from like, look, if you don't pay attention to things, Wall Street Journal is sort of like co-sign the government stance on things. They are more centrist than other things, but like if you're not like anywhere near right of center, they are extreme right in your perspective, right?
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, my sub's coming up, and it's $100 a year for the Post, and I'm like,
I don't think I would. I don't send you very many Washington Post articles either.
Yeah,
I send you Washington Post articles when there's things about the Washington Post, actually.
Right, which is so funny when they report on themselves. It's sort of I don't know.
God, I should have hit
the self-licking lollipop.
I just shit on Dave DeCamp and then I burped like a foot from the microphone. I'm pretty sure that came across. Sorry.
I think I talked over it. I think we're fine.
Well, I didn't have to mention that then.
All right. Shall we get into media?
Yeah, I'm excited about this.
All right. So as I've sort of teased on the show for a while, I listened to the audiobook In the Time of My Dime by Sebastian Younger. If you don't know who he is, I'm surprised. Restrepo. I don't think that's on Netflix anymore, but I think you can find it on YouTube still. Tribe. He's been writing. I think the first time I encountered him was he was a correspondent for Vanity Fair in Liberia. Back when like they had the child soldiers things happening, like in the 2000s.
So wait, here, let's talk about what everyone knows him for.
Okay,
seen the movie The Perfect Storm?
Yes.
The crab fisherman with George Clooney and Mark Wahlberg.
Yeah.
He wrote that. So like just I know that doesn't match with like Tribe and all his war reporting and things like that, but like if you liked the storytelling of that movie, he wrote the book that they made the movie about.
Right. I mean, he's been writing for decades at this point. And I've been
But like
consuming.
he cut his teeth as a war reporter, like not making any money, just
Right.
being like because he wanted to be on the scene.
When I talked about earlier about the whole like people wanting to sort of seek that rite of passage or prove themselves, that was sort of his path. So he went to like war zones.
Find your hero's journey, right? Like have it
Yeah,
transform you and become something on the other side.
Yeah, so he went to like war zones and reported without like he wasn't affiliated with any media company. He's been through some crazy shit. If you watch Restrepo, some of that footage is pretty intense. So for him to write a book about a near-death experience, you'd think, well, this guy has had all the experiences. And the interesting thing is that the experience that this book centers around has nothing to do with any of that.
What this book centers around is something that I get anxiety about when my heart rate goes up too high and I feel like a weird sensation in my abdomen. I'm like, that's it. I'm gonna die right here.
I was actually like sort of unsure whether or not to bring this up because I don't want to like.
Dude, I'm on a winning streak. I'm good.
I was like, I don't want to.
Honestly, I've actually understood what you meant, and I've heard it before. The reframing thing, like it's just so like, yes, you're like, oh, that's how that feels right now, and this is why you feel that way, and it's appropriate to feel that way. It's really okay, actually.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Anyways, he gets into some really interesting stuff. It kind of goes back and forth between the particular event where he almost died and then sort of his other experiences and how they tie together, as well as sort of scientific research on near-death experiences and the way your brain works and brain chemistry, that kind of thing.
I love that. It's centered in some like neuroscience.
Yep, neuroscience as well as philosophy. It's very all encompassing, and it doesn't like there's times because he even talks about like quantum physics at some point, and there's times where you're like, well, I don't want this to be the secret. I don't want the woo woo shit. And I think he does a really good job of like sort of walking up to that line a little bit in a sort of skeptical way, but not crossing it where you're like, this is clearly bullshit.
Would you say edging?
Me and the boys are edging. Yes. He recounts experiences of people who have had near-death experiences and how similar they are regardless of their environment or their culture, which is interesting. He actually recounts his own because he had an experience where he saw something when he was about to die, and he didn't even know he was about to die, but it happened. He recounts it. I don't know. I felt like there were definitely times where I was listening to it where it was very moving and emotional. But I just think it's a really well done book about this subject matter, probably done better than anybody on the planet could do it, given this guy's experience.
Yeah, it's one of those things. I'm going to say something that might be a little preachy, but it's targeted at our more younger listeners. Like,
okay.
I encourage you to go out and gain life experiences, even if you feel like that's just like maybe the best thing for you to do right now. And it doesn't take you to the goal that you truly want to, because I promise you there's something that if you just commit yourself to being as good as you can, the best version of yourself through these experiences you put yourself in, life's a collaboration, or life is a cumulative process. And you're going to find a way to put yourself in the best position, giving the unique experiences you've had. Like man, I've said this 1,000 times better than that before, but I never thought that spending 10 years as a customer service person in retail was ever going to be a valuable skill set. And then I found my true calling working on machines and realized that I stand apart from everybody else in my field because I can talk to the customer in a way that makes them want me to come back. And I've been able to make a ton of money in a field where some people make good money, but I make pretty good money in it because I stand out in that way. And I wouldn't have thought that, going to a little bit of college, dropping out, getting into retail, and then getting into mechanic work really would have aligned myself in that way. And it allows me to have time for my passions. I play the saxophone and I podcast with my best friend Alan and philosophize and stuff like that. And like it And in that same sense, you know, you say Sebastian Younger can tell this story in a way that nobody else on the planet could because he's had
that experience.
And you only get that when you take yourself into new. The only thing I do recommend is don't be afraid to constantly just keep changing your setting and scenery and establishing new experiences and new things that you internalize that become that cumulative you that
put yourself in places that are uncomfortable.
You're always only going to be the version of you, but sometimes that can be boring. Don't let you be boring. Like, but I promise you, like if you do your best to excel in whatever you're doing and take the experience from that, eventually you're going to be at that point where you're doing something in a way that nobody else that does what you're doing does it that way.
Yeah. You know, I was talking to NBC.
My buddy Craig.
Yeah. When we were at the lake, and one of the things he talks about is, you know, he was in retail for decades, you know, and then he didn't understand how that would translate into what he currently does. Where, you know, he's running private schools, like multiple private schools. And all of that training of dealing with customers and just understanding sort of how to maneuver in a corporate
Most
world.
of the people he deals with just tell people like bullshit stuff or like, he's like, no, I can finesse this.
Yes. Yeah. So just the ability to connect with people on that human level and just understand how to maneuver yourself in a political environment is like such a useful skill that nobody tells you about. There's not like a course for that in college, but you just learn that through the course of your, you know, your work experience. So yeah, you got to value those experiences for sure.
Yep.
All right. So enough about that. I definitely highly recommend it. By the way, he reads the book.
It's him?
Yeah, if you get the audiobook, it's him reading it, which makes it even better. It's fantastic. Couldn't recommend it more.
I want to talk about something I don't recommend.
Okay.
So I had heard that the new Jennifer Lopez movie on Netflix called Atlas, that is a futuristic sci-fi about a world where the AI comes to life and has a war against humanity. And I had heard two things that brought me to this movie. It was Ben Affleck and Jennifer Lopez are getting a divorce. Headline that didn't make it in the show. My favorite part about it, did you hear the reason?
No.
Temporary insanity.
Oh. On which part?
Well, I am now encouraged from a conversation I had with a friend last night to go look at all of the, like, she's been doing like documentaries and stuff. She had a tour that was announced and then half of the dates got canceled. And then she changed the name of the tour. And then they canceled the rest of the tour because nobody bought tickets. So who do you think is crazy?
Sounds like
a bad idea to change the name of your tour halfway through.
It does.
Okay. Just anyways.
And you think she would have the star power to attract an audience regardless. But
so how many people do you know would be excited to go see Jennifer Lopez do a concert? It's not as many as you used to think you knew.
That's actually,
I never thought about that till somebody brought this. I was like, you're right. It's the same thing as the Black Keys canceled all their shows because nobody bought tickets. It's like you didn't do anything to cultivate a younger audience and keep the ones you had. And your drummer's a douchebag. I don't want to go see you. Like, sorry, you know, like,
yeah.
Okay. So anyways, going backwards, the other thing that I had heard was that this song, according to Jennifer Lopez, is actually a love story. And I'm like, you know what? We can scroll through movies and settle on something we don't want to watch, or we can just pull the trigger and watch something. Let's try it. I tend to think that a Netflix movie can be bad, but good enough that it's entertaining, right? Like 2.5 to 3 range, right? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. No. It's so bad. First of all, it's 2 hours long, which is kind of like the high end of the normal movie length. I always say that an hour and a half is kind of fine, but I get it that like the textbook Hollywood movie is a script based off it being about 2 hours, and directors or producers will open up to a certain page number based on the minutes per page and expect to see like the pivot point at that point, open up to another page number. So like within like the formula for a movie, 2 hours is fine. But not.
It's on the long end.
It should have been. It should have been an hour and a half. It still would have been bad, but it would have been like I wouldn't have
more palatable.
Okay. Yeah. But okay, so I'm going to go through my bullet points. Maybe I should have structured this better.
Can I ask a question really quick before? The title, is it in any way related to Ayn Rand? Or
No, it's her
Okay.
name, Atlas something. I don't. It's like
That's
Atlas.
stupid.
It is. Yeah. First of all, just I get it's in the future, but it's a woman named Atlas. Like just fucking dumb.
Okay. All
Okay.
right. All right.
So you find out that Atlas's mom
Mm-hmm.
invented something called Neuralink, which already exists, and it's the same thing as the Elon invention of early Neuralink.
Oh, okay.
So I think that in this series we're supposed to, because it happens like 40 years. So the event where the AI take over is like 40 years in the future, and then this is 40 years or 20 or 40 years in the future.
Did they just use Chat GPT to write the script? Is that what you're telling me?
I don't know if they had time
Okay.
to film it with. I don't know. Maybe no.
Okay.
ChatGPT would have done a better job, but I don't know. I don't know. I'll reconsider that more. My instinct is to say no.
Okay. All
Is
right.
her mom Elon Musk? Yes. In the end, it's still just a fucking hero's journey. At the end, it's the what's the guy that something Campbell?
Joseph Campbell.
Joseph Campbell hero's journey formula. I referenced it earlier.
Yeah,
Would
the
you
sun door.
as accept the burden, be transformed through it, become greater than you were at the end, and then confront your major. It's usually your father, right?
Your
Star Wars is
nemesis,
the
whatever
perfect,
it might be.
yeah,
Yeah.
nemesis, yeah. With the skills you gain from transforming through the
From the
hero's
journey.
Yeah,
Yes.
right. Okay. So in the end, it's still a hero's journey, and she has to go fight her fucking father, but not until she's first confronted with her own fears and
Oh,
becomes
God.
something greater than herself. There's a little bit, it touches a little bit on free will versus determinism, which caught my attention for the fucking moment. Oddly enough, she's the best part of the movie. Like, despite everything I'm saying, there's times in it where there's like really well delivered dramatic lines where
Okay.
she is in the context of a horrible movie, like sobbing and like just killing it with the acting, I have to say,
Okay.
in
All
a
right.
shit vehicle. And it's like, I don't care that you're doing such a good job acting, because like, I hate to say it because like, it's not that great, but like better than most people could have done, certainly in a bad movie. She's still killing it in this, oddly enough. Should have been 90 minutes. Speaking of time, there were so many times where they literally had a ticking clock in the movie. And then they were like, we need to do this before this happens. But I just have to think about this one thing that happened to me and set this record straight for once and spend like 2 minutes with that, where you have like 3 minutes to do anything. It's like, no, urgency, fucking do anything. And it actually takes you out of a movie that you shouldn't even be invested in anyways. It's so fucking bad. They're like speeches in the middle of a ticking clock, like it goes against all of the rules of storytelling, right?
Wow.
And
this sounds
then,
horrible.
Oh, it's so bad. And then like, there's literally a point when I tell you it's a love story, I defy you to watch this despite my review. And to that extent, I'm going to ruin it. The love story is about her falling in love and accepting the AI. So her whole thing is, I don't trust the AI because they fought humanity and my mom should. And then there's a whole thing about her mom creates an AI and the AI turns on her because she asked the AI a question and didn't know any better. And it like made itself aware. And so it's her. That's the thing that she has to confront. But humanity, to fight the AI, has worked with their own AI so they can become superhuman. And she has to sync with these mech suits. Literally, like there's a progress bar, and the mech suit is like, Atlas, you're only at 97%. We can't fight the bad guy until we fully sync. I need you to accept my love and bond so that we can truly become one. And it's like, take my hand, put it over here, understand the story. It's so fucking bad. It's bad. It's horrible. It's not worth your time. I've talked about it too much. It's that bad.
I mean, it sounds like it potentially has the structure of a decent
Could have been
video game.
good. Could have been, video game. Could have been a great video game.
Yeah. Yeah.
Could have been a good enough movie. It was just bad. It was a half hour too long, and it holds your hand.
Also, it sounds like it's her backwards. Like they just like, let's just flip this.
Very similar, and with like
but her was actually good.
Yeah.
And no, there's no reason that voice is similar to Scarlett Johansson's.
No. Shall we play a game?
Let's play a game.
Okay, so Young Thrash Lad has not supplied us with a game.
Okay.
But I do have something that I've kept in my back pocket for quite a while. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 things that are state things. Nope. Hold on. Let me unhighlight this one for you. There you go, Alan. I have 5 lines. The 6th line is the line that says state official things.
Okay.
So I have 5 state official things.
So like official bird or official, that kind of thing.
Yes.
Okay.
And you can pick the one that is not the official thing.
So out of the 5, there's only one that's incorrect.
Yeah, and I actually can't remember. Oh no, I do remember. Okay.
Okay.
All right. And I'm worried because I think you might have listened to the source of one of these things.
Okay.
But you don't remember things we talk about on the show, so I don't.
That's true.
Okay, so
Goldfish memory over here.
South Carolina, not North Carolina. Keep your shirt on. South Carolina state dance is called the shag. Don't answer yet. South Carolina's state dance is called the shag.
Okay.
Speaking of sexual references, the whoopie pie is the state treat for Maine. The whoopie pie is the state treat for Maine.
I can see both of those things being true. Okay.
In the state of Tennessee, the official song is the Tennessee Waltz.
Okay.
In the state of Hawaii, the official hand gesture is not the middle finger. They don't do that. It's the little shaka. Shaka, brah.
Hang loose. Yeah.
Hang loose. The little hang loose. That's my, like, people do peace, and I always just do shaka.
Yeah.
And I think I'm the only guy in Tennessee that does it, by the way. I've never seen anyone do it back. I'm like, fuck,
It's sui generis.
Yeah. I don't like that word, sui generis. You made me not like that word. You're like, why don't you just say
unique?
Unique, yeah. I actually forget what it means. Okay. The slinky is the state toy for Pennsylvania. It walks downstairs. And over the neighbor's dog, it's log. The slinky is the state toy for Pennsylvania. Was that 5? Okay, which one of these is real, Alan? Oh, nothing in here gives it away. I'll let you examine this.
All right. I was going to say, okay. So South Carolina state dance, the shag. Whoopie pie state treat for Maine. Shaka, Hawaii. Tennessee waltz. Slinky. Okay. So I feel like the shag sounds like a 50s dance or earlier. That could certainly be the South Carolina state dance.
Sounds
like
southern, huh? Like these Southerners wouldn't know not to say that. Huh?
I feel like the whoopie pie could certainly be the state treat for Maine. Shaka, Hawaii. So I'm gonna say the counterintuitive one. I don't think the Tennessee waltz is the official state dance. Did you?
Yeah, I got you.
Which one is it?
The shaka has not yet been approved by the state of Hawaii.
Oh,
do you remember the Economist episode that talked about this? You told me you listened to this episode because of like the main subject, and I was like,
I vaguely do.
Yeah, they always have like a puff piece at the end of the show.
Right. Sometimes I punch out before that.
Yeah, and it was, will the shaka become the state gesture for Hawaii? And they were like, many states have their own things that are unique, like the slinky from Pennsylvania, the whoopie pie from Maine, and the South Carolina state dance, the shag. I happen to know the Tennessee waltz is the official song of Tennessee because there's a whole story behind it. I
just feel like there's so much music from Tennessee that it could be.
Yeah, I know, but when you make state official things 100 years ago, the Tennessee waltz was the coolest thing that had ever happened. Do
you want to hear? Like, I have a tip in for just a funny state thing. So I was listening to this podcast about the sort of history of gun rights and gun law in America over the last couple hundred years.
Yep.
And there's a woman who was a huge part of the NRA and sort of their shift. And she's from Florida. And there was a movement to change the state bird of Florida from the mockingbird to like some bird that is only local.
What bird? California? Where'd you say?
Florida.
In Southern California, all the mockingbirds make sounds like car alarms because they mock
car alarms. That's hilarious,
dude. Oh my god, it doesn't happen out here, and I'm so glad that there's so many birds in Tennessee. I am like, it drove me fucking crazy with all these.
Oh yeah.
Oh my god! Oh my god! Best
All right,
part
so-
about in California is the mockingbird.
So the mockingbird is a state bird of like 4 other states.
Okay.
And so there was a movement at one point, and it was all these kids like in elementary school.
They're trying to kill the mockingbird for Florida.
No, they got him. They got on board.
Boo Radley stood up and said,
They got on board with this movement to change Florida's state bird to like some thrashing wren or something that was only local to Florida, as opposed to this
they didn't
bird,
have a
which is-
booby to pick or any of these other
No,
things
as
that
opposed to mockingbirds, which are everywhere in the
something
multiple
more
state
unique.
birds.
I understand.
Right. And this woman, for what? Oh, I know why. So she was upset about some legislation that was passed that had some minimal gun control effect, and she
How's gun
blamed
control related to this.
one of the people who was involved in passing that law for it, and he was really not at all even involved in that part. He was like an
In the gun
environmental
control
scientist.
stuff?
And he really cared about the bird thing though, and so he was pushing this movement, and she was like, "Fuck that guy! We're never going to change a state bird." And she came in with all her lobbying power and just fucked this movement over and over and over again in Florida. It's like, no, fuck that. The mockingbird is the symbol of American families.
Oh my
They would
God.
care. They would buy a gun like that. She like it was a whole thing.
Yeah, in a
It's
way
not-
that like you can't even like do a good job parodying it
Right.
because it's so absurd.
it's so absurd, but she won.
One. God damn it, Alan.
Anyways, there you go.
Wow.
That's
Wow. Well, speaking of birds, I have a question to take us out.
oh, okay.
Is it cock? Birds, right?
Right. Nice.
Like a fowl, right? Like a
Sure.
Okay.
Chicken.
Is it cock a doodle do, or is it cock a doodle do? It's all onomatopoeia.
It is. I'm gonna go with cock.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to None Taken. Oh, I almost stopped it before I did the sound. James, you know what to do.
That was fun.
That was fun. Drive safe, buddy.
When a guy's banging you.
Y'all let me in his damn house.
Oh, how about that?
Come in the name of peace.
LMFAO.
So what in the world is this?
Is Kevin McCarthy a moron, and if so, why?
Why would you say something that stupid?
I come without explanations or solutions.
I'm a very sexy lady.
Cat turd.
I will not suffer this harlot. How great! An anti-American Marxist.
Ted Cruz, go fuck yourself.
Read the news.
China is asshole.
God bless the United States.
Podcasting.
I totally forgot and stopped the audio recording. It'll be fine. I'll do
that's
anything
fine.
in post.
Okay.
See you in a couple.
All
Hey,
right.
see you in a week and a half.
Dude, congratulations, brother. Like fucking dude, so much. I'm so happy for you, dude. Enjoy it.
It sounds cheesy. I'll say it. I can't wait to be your husband. Like,
Dude.
it's really gonna be the pleasure of the rest of my life. Like, it's a like I know that this is the perfect fit, and it's so natural. It's just
Yeah.
in some sense, it's just a matter of formality, and in a greater sense, it's really a completion of potential. And I'm really happy, man.
That's awesome. Proud of you.
All right, talk to you later.
Cheers.
Cheers.